Wait, is this fucking play about us?
That's my opinion!
So I just got back from watching The Devil Wears Prada, and what I need you guys to understand about The Devil Wears Prada 2 is that, to me, this movie is a thesis. They know exactly what they're saying. They know exactly who they're talking to. And if you haven't seen it, pause, go watch it, and then come back because we are about to unpack everything.
Ugh, spoilers.
So the movie opens with these like tiny callbacks. You get the two belts in the opening sequence. There's the cadence. There's the structure of Miranda Priestley's world. We get the perfect amount of homage to the first movie. Like, we get callbacks to That's All, but in the most cruel and heavy way. So it still holds the weight and the coldness that it has in the first movie. And that's why it worked. That's All was never a catchphrase. It's a dismissal. It's a power move. And the sequel fully respects that. It understands that the original wasn't iconic because it was fun. It was iconic because it was absolutely ruthless. And they stay very true to that. So I think it pays the most perfect amount of homage to the original movie. And one of the hardest things I think about doing a sequel like this is, how do you bring a character like Miranda into 2026 without softening her? Because again, that's part of what made her so iconic and so powerful and such a staple. And they really did thread that needle so beautifully. You get so many moments where the modern world is like pushing back on her. Like, they're making jokes about HR policies and cultural shifts and like the language of inclusivity. Like, there's this bit where Andy sees her trying to hang up her coat, and we find out that HR won't let her throw her coats at her assistants anymore. And they're like, oh my God, can you believe they ever let her do that? Like, that's crazy. Or her assistant like subtly course correcting her phrasing around body image, so she doesn't get dragged during a company meeting. And it's very funny and it's very sharp. And the steps and commentary that this movie makes hit so fucking deeply to me. Like, there's this little speech that I guess you could say our main antagonist, Benji, this like crypto billionaire, whatever, gives a whole monologue about abandoning art in favor of AI and how efficiency and scale matter more than human expression now, and that the future is more important than the soul. And the craziest part of that is that he delivers it while sitting in front of The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. And the symbolism is not subtle, and it really shouldn't be, because I feel like we've all heard that speech before in meetings and in studios. If you work in entertainment, it is the most soul-crushing conversation to hear in a studio or in tech pitches that are pretending to be creative revolutions. And the people that are making those calls and making those sacrifices are okay with that. And what this movie does brilliantly, I think, is it really expands on the thesis of the original movie, that is, everybody wants this. But now we really see what that actually means. Like, Emily tries to steal the company from Miranda, and like Nigel orchestrating the firing of the senior feature editor, who we honestly never even get to meet as a character, but he does get her fired to secure Andy coming back to the company. And Andy writing an expose book on Miranda. And I think the most realistic part about this movie is that nobody is shocked, like genuinely. Nobody is genuinely offended. And then when we get to that final scene at the end of the movie, which parallels the ending of the first movie, where we're in the car with Miranda and Andy, and Miranda reveals that she knows about the expose book that Andy has been going back and forth about, writing about her. And instead of rage, and instead of like raging at her and being cruel and cold, she tells her to leave everything in. She tells her to leave in all of the cruelty towards her staff, the way that she treats her friends, the way that she treats her family, how she's never really been there, for her daughters their entire lives. And then she says this line that I think is so true to working in entertainment. She says that she wants her to leave all of these in, and she wants the expose to be honest about everything that she's given up, because she says people should know that there is a cost. And then she looks at Andy and she says, but God, I do love working. And Andy smiles at her, and that line, that's the movie, because it doesn't condemn ambition. It doesn't apologize for it. It's completely honest that for most people in entertainment, myself included, work is the love story. Side note, speaking of love stories, I didn't give a fuck about Andy's romantic side plot at all. It felt like a contractual obligation. It felt like somebody in the boardroom was like, we need her to fall in love. And they just stapled a relationship onto her arc, because every time the movie cut away from the power dynamics and the fashion and the industry of politics, I feel like it just lost momentum. It didn't ruin the film. It just it felt unnecessary, and I didn't care for it. Anyway, what I did care about in the movie, what made me actually a bit emotional, is that for a film that is so explicitly about saving art, it had to be good. It genuinely had no choice, and it is. The costume design is insane. Everybody looks so hot, and it's intentional, and it's narrative, and it's expressive, and it's storytelling through clothing and costumes. And the cinematography is lush and controlled, and it does feel like early 2000s cinema. It's very glossy, character-driven energy, but it's updated with the precision that we get in a 2026 feature film. I felt like the writing was sharp and layered. The performances were amazing across the board. Everybody showed up like this genuinely mattered, and it does. This movie becomes the argument that it's making. It says you cannot replace this. You cannot mass produce or AI generate something that feels like a room full of artists putting their entire chests into a story. And in a cultural moment where people are genuinely debating whether or not art is worth it or optional, the answer to this film is a full and unapologetic no. Art is the point. The Devil Wears Prada really introduced the mainstream fantasy of the entertainment industry, and the sequel, I feel like, gives us a very current reality. It shows that it's glamorous and it's intoxicating, while still highlighting the sacrifices that you have to go through on a personal level to survive in an industry like this. And I loved it. I felt like there wasn't a team Miranda, there wasn't a team Andy, there wasn't a team Emily. It was just you get it or you don't. I felt like it very deeply resonated with me. It's a great movie. It is a proper sequel, and I genuinely cannot recommend it enough. So again, this is an unwarranted, unsponsored review of The Devil Wears Prada 2, which is currently out in theaters. I highly recommend going to see it if you can.